The holidays can be a lot, but with your new Dell PC with Intel inside, you can handle a lot. From taking care of holiday to-dos to taking care of Aunt Jean, even if she can be a lot.
EVE Online is a vast universe, alive with the unrelenting activity and combined history of its players.
Grammarly's proactive, automatic writing suggestions are great, but sometimes you just want to tell Grammarly how to help. Rewriting text works the same way. Highlight some text and type a prompt describing how you want to change it. Tone, style, length, you name it, Grammarly does it. Download Grammarly for free and see it for yourself.
Something amazing is happening in the auto industry. Customers are getting back on the road faster. That's because CDW is modernizing businesses with Dell's intelligent portfolio of devices. Built-in security and AI capabilities improve workflows, which means technicians can find and repair issues quickly, so people can get on with their next adventure. Make amazing happen. Dell and CDW.
Monday.com, the opposite of any work platform we tried in the past. We tried other work management platforms, not naming names. They all suck. Monday, total opposite. It didn't just work, it spread. And people became Monday evangelists. And you know why? Because people actually liked using it. No, it's not a chore. It's intuitive. You don't have to force anyone. They're on board. You can really see that Monday care about their user. The user is king. You can create workflows yourselves, no IT, no admins. And that's why we love it. There's no roadblocks. Everything can just be done instantly. We have people creating workflows, showing them off around the company. They take pride in it. I know it sounds like a commercial, but honestly, I never expected it to have this much influence.
Okay. Welcome. Had to take care of a few things with my dad before he left, so sorry I wasn't present there in the comments, guys. Hope you are having a good Thanksgiving, and hope y'all have filled your bellies like I have. My belly actually hurts at the moment, so yeah, man, I'm gonna keep it short and concise tonight. Well, not too short, but concise and on point with what I was wanting to show everyone, and hopefully your families are enjoying themselves as well. And I'm gonna get right into the next video. So appreciate y'all for being here as always, and much love. I shall return.
My name is Sheila, and I'm a frequency scientist. And today we're going to dive into the wonderful world of oscilloscopes. So, what are oscilloscopes? An oscilloscope is a device used to display and analyze the waveform of electronic signals. It shows how the signal varies over time, allowing us to see things like amplitude, frequency, and the level of coherence or distortion of the signal. During the journey, I discovered the power of oscilloscopes to help us understand and visualize the sonic geometry inherent in ratios and numerical sequences, and how this knowledge can be used to mold the aether. So we're just going to go into a brief history of the oscilloscope. So the oscilloscope started off as a actual analog entity made with a cathode ray before it was converted into digital format. And so this machine would help us see how tiny electron beams move when we would mix multiple waves together. So by changing the frequency of one of the waves in comparison to the other, these beams would give us a interference wave pattern that, when they intersected, that allowed us to see a variety of geometrical shapes and waves on the screen. So it's the whole purpose is to visualize sound, to visualize electrical sonic signals as waveforms on a screen. So it gives us an eye into the world of what sound looks like. So in the OG version, we have the electron gun, the deflection plates, and the phosphorescent screen. The function works with the electron gun emitting a stream of electrons that are accelerated and focused into a beam. The beam is deflected by electric or magnetic fields to trace patterns, usually waveforms, on a phosphorescent screen, which emits light where the electron beam strikes.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform.
So it can be used in many applications, such as electronics, engineering, observing all kinds of electrical signals, measuring signal properties like the voltage, the amplitude, the frequency, the phase. So that's just a little history on the oscilloscope. And now we're going to discuss the three axes on the XYZ oscilloscope. And just to go back for a second, as you can see on here, there is a XY 2D oscilloscope, which has only 2 dimensions. And then when we go into the XYZ, we have another dimension that's added. So a 3D XYZ digital oscilloscope in a computer uses the fast Fourier transform algorithm to emulate the functionality of the analog cathode ray oscilloscope, which portrays accurate information of how the sonic geometries propagate as acoustic waves through a medium like air. And of course, each medium has a different equation associated with it, which we can get into later, but mapping for a 3D oscilloscope. So the XYZ, I'm going to go to this one because it explains it better. XYZ, frequency, amplitude, time, not always in that order, but these are generally the three variables that are unpacked. You see this visualization here: frequency, amplitude, and time. So next we're going to talk about coherence, which is a concept that is so important across every system of reality. And observing coherence in oscilloscopes merely help us understand how we want to generate systems that are in more harmonic order with nature. So even though nature is actually super chaotic, but I'll explain that later. So, okay, so we're going to talk about incoherent systems. So in an incoherent system, energy is leaked and wasted. And if you're talking about the body, it could lead to health impacts when all of your biological systems are out of sync. In a coherent system, the systems are operating under principles of harmonic resonance and are more efficient. So there's no leaks. So this is what we want. In all of our electrical systems, circuit boards, and our body, we want the systems to be flowing coherently. And this is the path of nature's least resistance. So you're moving in the flow of how nature wants to move, but organizing it in a coherent manner that is in alignment with that. Okay, so yeah, this is just a little bit more detail over of coherence versus incoherence. As you can see, I think it's very, very, very important to ground this into your reality as a concept when you do anything, when you want to clean your room. And as Robert has so beautifully described about coherence domains in his previous lecture, there is an enormous amount of benefit from deciding to entrain with the principles of coherence for optimal health, optimal vitality. And we're just gonna keep going here. It's just a little bit more of a deep dive. I'm just going to go into a little bit of this because I really want to ground these concepts. So coherence is a term used to describe the alignment, synchronization, and orderly relationship between different elements of a system. In various fields, coherence refers to how well components work together in harmony, amplifying each other's effects. Coherence describes the phase relationship between waves, such as light waves, sound waves, rhythms in a biological system, and more. When waves are stable and coherent, they have a constant phase difference, and their peaks and troughs align predictably. This alignment allows for constructive interference, amplifying the wave's effects and making the energy inherent in the system flow more efficiently toward common goal with the least amount of waste produced. Quantum coherence refers to the property of particles like electrons or photons maintaining a fixed geometrical quantum phase relationship. Coherence in quantum states is essential for phenomena like quantum entanglement and superposition. In all cases, coherence represents a state of alignment, order, and mutual reinforcement, often leading to increased power, clarity, and efficiency in any system. Structural integrity in water is imperative to human health and provides a blueprint for all cellular, physical, metaphysical, and consciousness-based systems to operate in alignment with higher coherence. So that is coherence. And so we definitely want to be aware of the principles of incoherence too, so that we know what to shift if needed. So incoherence is the process by which a system loses its coherence or orderly alignment. If sound waves, light waves, or water waves lose phase alignment due to interference or noise, they can undergo decoherence, leading to a loss of clear and amplified signal strength. Water is the life force that flows through all systems of the human circuit board, igniting the current and the life force, and it is imperative to spread awareness on the importance of the structure of water, because decoherence produces more waste products and leads to leaked energy in an inefficient system. In physiological or biological systems, decoherence can refer to a loss of synchronization between bodily rhythms or patterns. A state of heart-brain coherence can be disrupted under stress, leading to decoherence in the rhythms of these systems, which may have physical or mental health effects. The states of biological coherence can be maintained through yoga and meditation and drinking coherently structured water as a base level foundational blueprint for all other systems. So there's one more thing I want to say about incoherence, which is when incoherence is a good thing, which is when your system has stagnated and you need a pattern interrupt to disrupt that stagnation and create a new energy flow that is more in alignment with your higher timeline. So in that type of instance where things are a little too coherent and they're too coherent in the direction that is not in alignment, that's when you need a disruptor. That's when a disruptor is a good thing. So I just wanted to add that in there. Think of a gong.
Wow, look at this. 94% of people believe company culture is important to an organization's success. Frankly, I have no idea what the other 6%.
Okay, so we're going to get into Malcolm Bindall's plasmoid unification model. So in this discussion about coherence, we are going to talk about the coherent properties of plasmoids, which is basically controls everything. So plasmoids are donut or toroidal shaped clusters of protons or electrons. And these molecules basically store, they can absorb, they can store, and they can release energy. So they're like atomic batteries. And they're transmuters, they're alchemizers. They can convert things through their process of alchemy when they are in different states. They transmute energy, transmute from matter to energy. And this is the foundation of how the thunderstorm generator works, how it transmutes energy, matter from one form to another. So let's see. Yes, so the plasmoids function as an atomic battery that could be self-charging due to its ability to convert matter into clean energy. Plasmoids, by their unique geometry, cause an electromagnetic containment field to generate a 0-point field naturally and casually without much effort, have the ability to convert a nuclear mass protium into energy. And Robert gave an amazing explanation on exactly how that process works. So the plasmoid unification model, which I'm going to get into in the next slide, but show a little poster here. So a little closer here. So this is the plasmoid unification model. So the plasmoid unification model posits that plasmoids are epoch making and that knowledge of them has been hidden in plain sight for centuries. This PUM slide rule reveals the algorithmic relationships between life's elements critical to mankind's existence and development. It starts with protium in the center, which has a melting point of negative 259.2 degrees Celsius and is the most abundant element in our solar system. Protium determines the 25,920 great year frequency of our solar system. The resonance frequencies of all other elements can then be calculated when 25,920 years is reduced from years to days, hours, and seconds. So I'm going to get a little bit more in detail with that on the slide. So it was the PUM is evidence that the universe is an intelligent design. That design is in perfect octave harmonic resonance with itself. Therefore, all of creation, from galaxies to planets to elements, all resonate in unison with a collective chord. As above, so below. This is interconnected with an energy web, the components and laws of which are based and governed on the same torus plasmoid perception. The concepts and ruling principles of the PUM have been applied to make energy and to matter and matter to energy conversions. Like I said earlier, these plasmoids are alchemists that can absorb, store, and release energy. Master alchemists. So when applied to the modern hydrocarbon-powered internal combustion engine, PUM technology removes exhaust, toxic waste products, and increases the engine's power and output and efficiency by transforming waste back into fuel. Plasmoids employed in conjunction with the plasmoid toroidal impulsive turbine provide a new novel matter to energy and energy to matter propulsion device, water, land, air, and space travel. So that is some interesting info about Malcolm Dendall's work. And this is a close-up of the legend from the plasmoid unification model. And this is close-up of the other part. And each one of the colored bands that you see is tracked on the legend. So if you direct your eyes to number 9, Seasons of the Great Year, we have 25,920. So if we take that, for example, we can see that that is on the north node of this chart in the color band of this peach color. So 25,920. And the way that this diagram works, for using that as an example, it will take 25,920 and divides it by 32. So now you have, look really closely here to see. Sorry, I can't see. So basically, I'm going to start with an easier example. Sorry. We can see. Oh, good looking. Got that part up. Okay. So we are going to take a little look at 25,920. Okay. Alrighty, so we're going to take a look at 25,920 right at the north node. So next, we divide 25,920 by 32. There are 32 total rungs here. When you divide 25,920 by 32, you get 810, which is the second number at that 1 o'clock position. So when we take 810, what you do is you add 810 to 810. And then you get the next number, 1,620. Take that number, and then you add 810 to that. And then you get the next number. So what you're doing is you are adding the initial number to itself, and then adding that same initial number to that sum, and on and on and on and on. So all of these numbers are in this row are separated by 810. And that same formula applies for all of the lines from here to here. They're all divided with that same rule. So what I did is I took these numerical values that were mapped out by Malcolm, and I input them into a signal generator or oscillator. And I input those combinations into an oscilloscope that we talked about earlier. And I'm going to show you a few examples from that research. But before I do, I just want to try and explain that whenever I took a combination, it would be a combination of 2 to 3, usually about 3 different frequencies from one of the lines. So just one band, one color. I would take 3 at a time, and I would play with all kinds of combinations within that one band at a time. So in that blue band, I would, for example, just pick 3 random ones. And what I noticed was that every single frequency in that one band was all operating under coherence. So these geometries that were coming through in the oscilloscope were coming out with perfect coherence, which is actually very rare when you are looking at a tuning system. Even our Western tuning system or previous Western tuning system of 440A is actually containing only incoherent geometries with every combination of 2 and more nodes in the oscilloscope. So I'm going to show you a few of those examples now. Okay, so let me pick a cool one. Okay, so this one here is an example from line 15. Line 15 of the plasma unification model. And I'm going to let this play for 20 seconds or so along with the audio. So you can see briefly for 10 seconds what exactly that looks like. Actually, I'm not going to play the audio, but we could just take a look how it's going.
Search has changed. Introducing SEMrush One, uniting traditional
All right. Wow. How relaxing is that? It actually shifts the plasmoids in the room into coherence. And the result on the biology after exposing the fields to that is, by definition, more coherence. And how does that make us feel? More relaxed, more calm, more centered, more grounded. So let's take a look at another one. Let's do line 16. Line 16 is called time. There you have it. And I can immediately feel a biological effect whenever I look at it and hear it simultaneously. And when you look at it and hear it simultaneously, my hypothesis is that you are strengthening your neural circuitry related to synesthesia, which is the pathways of your brain that enable you to see sound. So see these oscilloscopes in the actual aether. And I know from working with these for so long that it does strengthen your ability to perceive these higher bandwidths of frequency with your eyes. And that's just my experience. So, okay, so we're going to look at one more here. We'll try line 10. All right. So my hypothesis is that looking at these patterns activates some type of subliminal process that awakens our cells into coherence, our neurons, our quantum processes. It shows them a blueprint of coherence and reminds them, gives them the remembrance of how to operate. So that's just the download that I get when I look at these. So we'll go back into here. So those frequencies you saw were found from the plasmoid unification model experimentation. And I do quite a bit of experimentation of people. These are just the ratios. And oh, yes, before I go into ratios of other systems, I just wanted to quickly mention that the plasmoid unification model inherently has many ratios that are already present in the 432 just intonation and Pythagorean tuning systems, which is not present in the 440 Western tuning system that is currently the standard, which we're working on shipping. So yeah, I just wanted to show you those quickly. Whoops, sorry. So, okay. So now I just wanted to show you some of the geometries that were generated using other types of numerical systems. Here are just a few of the literally hundreds of geometries that I've been generating in the oscilloscope, playing around with different combinations of numbers.
When you have the perfect response in your head, but your fingers just can't keep up. We've all been there, typing, deleting, retyping. Now I use Whisperflow. I just think out loud and it creates perfect formatted text on any Apple website. Whisperflow understood what I was trying to say and gave me the exact output I wanted. Check out the difference between this same sentence being dictated into Siri versus Whisperflow.
Sorry about that.
Getting all of these fun shapes.
Pause here for 1 second. I just wanted to mention how beautiful these geometries are, and the like she said, the ratios to achieve these are all stored within this what's called the plasmoid unification model, which you've seen a little bit earlier. It was the circles within circles within circles, and it's based off of the great year, right? Which not everyone has to believe in, but you know, it's kind of where his inspiration came from. Was you know, originated from, was those kind of numbers and those kind of studies. So I just want to point that out, and how beautiful these geometries are. And
yeah, can see that. And each one of these shapes, there's a huge framework and huge philosophy behind each one of these shapes. For example, one of the shapes could be generated with one ratio. Let's take the first one on the left. That one is generated, that Trinity Nanterre, one of my favorite shapes. That one is generated using the ratio 2 to 1. 2 to 1. So if you have those two frequencies as a base, then you can explore with combining multiple ratios together. So then taking that fundamental frequency from the first two, multiplying it by another ratio, like the 4/3, then you would get one of these really cool shapes. So it's just playing around with different combinations of ratios. So there's a whole science behind these, behind getting these. So they're not just art, they're also science, and they're also healing. So many applications for that. And this is just when I was just playing around, generating the calculation of each fraction. I called it the unified field theory as a joke, mainly, but maybe there might be a little bit of truth sprinkled in that. But I view these as correction codes, as the source code of reality. And this is a list of fractions that you get when you're in elementary school. They give you this list. If you look closely, it's just 1/1, 2/1, 3/1, 4/1, 5/1. So because my art utilizes ratios, I really needed to make this chart so that I could make my art quickly, so that I could have all of the ratios in front of me so I can do quick calculations. So it took me a while, but I typed them all out. So the bottom number is just the decimal version of the fraction. And just in this chart alone, I started to observe all kinds of interesting patterns. And I invite everyone else to also look a little bit closely into this and start seeing some of these magical and mind-blowing patterns that start emerging just when you observe these numbers. It's a whole study, so we won't get too much into that now. But then I had the motivation and excitement to find one of the geometries, at least, that was yielded from that ratio in the oscilloscope. So to be more clear, if you just take one of these ratios, for example, let's look at the 3/2. So second one down, second one to the right. So 3/2, 1.5. So 1.5 is an example of a ratio that can generate this 5-petal flower, which could also be a star, depending on the amplitude ratios, which are not listed here. But that 1.5 ratio is famous for being able to make a pentagram, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. Because if you had any two frequencies that are related to each other with 1.5, so 100 times 1.5 gives you 100 and 150. So now 100 and 150 would put into a signal generator, will yield this shape in the oscilloscope, 5-petal flower. However, if you shift the z-axis, then you can unfold that geometry into a few variations as well. So it's like you're looking at it from different angles when you shift that z-axis. You're moving it in different ways, but you're maintaining some integrity that is going to be held in the genetics of that ratio, which is a pentagram. So these are toroidal geometries that model quantum behaviors. They model electron orbital cycles, and they also model cosmic cycles of planets. Every single planet moves in one of these curve patterns, which there's a few different names for them. Rose curves is one of the mathematical terms. So toroidal geometries, because these are toroids, if you look at them from the top view, these are toroids. These are like plasmoids. And each number of turns or number of petals has a different set of properties connected to it based on a few different variables, the angular momentum, that.
This is GenSpark. It's like having a full-stack team in one workspace. Watch this. Build me a professional
something takes. So the time. So yeah, many different properties are encoded. So for example, if you're tracing one of these, would be going slower if you're in circle, and faster if you had higher numbers of petals. So yeah, and then this is just to show you how long it takes that I have a lot of work to go. So I gotta flesh this out a little bit more. It expands into infinity in all directions, and this is and this particular chart has been channeled by so many people as a very, very, very important thing to focus on that encodes the quantum structure of reality. And just two examples that I'll mention are the Lambdoma and Irv Wilson's co-prime grid. So both of these systems reference this exact same structure. So it's nothing new that people have been tuning into the importance of this, and I'm just here to amplify that sentiment. So yeah, so we can now that we know a little bit more about coherent frequencies, we can quickly go into a little bit about the coherence of water, and knowing that coherent structures are generated when we have coherent harmonic relationships of frequencies. We can now look at a couple different applications when we apply coherent frequencies to water. So I'm going to just do a little series of experiments to see what frequencies enhance the coherence of water. So I'll go straight into it over here first, and then we'll go back later. So just so you can see some cool visuals. So not only are these frequencies coherent in an oscilloscope, but when you apply those frequencies to water, they also restructure water. And anyone can go home and get a $4 Petri dish on Amazon and do these experiments yourself. They're super fun, and they show you the exact same type of research that Masaru Emoto is doing. There's another woman named Veda Austin who has incredible results with this technique, just amazing. And so what you do is first you take a control, you just add a little bit of water on the bottom of a Petri dish, and then you freeze it. And then you observe that, take some photos, and you can usually observe if it's tap water that the water is going to be a little bit incoherent and less structured. And sometimes spring water might have slightly more structure, as you can see. So yeah, just a basic experiment. This was very quick. It only took me a couple of hours, but I wanted to see for myself. So first thing I did is I took an electromagnetic coil that was playing just 432 hertz. And then I put the coil in the freezer. And I put the Petri dish on top. And then I put it in for 20 minutes or so. And then I took it out, and then I noticed the water was totally restructured. So as you can see in these images, that coherence from the oscilloscopes is coming into the water as well. So it affects us on the physical. Frequency affects us on the physical. And our bodies are made of water. So this is some bombshell research right here that everyone should know about. So the tuning fork is another one. 100% of the time, when you take a tuning fork and you put it in your water just one time, it will restructure the water on one level. And there's a few different levels we're working with, but on this particular level, it's creating coherence in the water. And anyone can do these experiments. They're super fun. And then this was the last one that I tried, which was putting the water in a plasma field, which is a totally different way of structuring the aether in an environment using heated gas in a glass tube. And the gas actually encodes a specific frequency that you dial in. So I would dial in frequency or a ratio and put the water in. And this also restructured the water. But as you can see, it's got this more of this like softness to it than the other the ones that were just with the freezer or the koi ball, sorry. So yeah. So another really cool story about the plasma experimentation is one time I was playing this plasma device at 2 frequencies related at 1.6. So 1.6 is found everywhere in nature. It's 1.618. It's the golden ratio, and it's just you could find it everywhere in nature. So I was playing this 1.6 ratio, and then I opened up my door and I saw these gigantic insectoids on my door, like praying mantis, and I had never seen them ever before in my life. But as soon as I started generating that plasma field, it attracted all of these different insects because they have antenna and they were recepting a coherent field and migrating towards it. So I thought that was a fun little story. So yeah, I think that is pretty much it. I have maybe 2 more slides after this one. So, but yeah, just to briefly get into the plasma. The plasma is heated noble gas, and mixing the gases in different ratios produces different field effects and also different colors, because it's like mixing paint when you mix these different elements together. And this is a whole field of study that I hope the world will start to embark more deeply upon. So yeah, this would be the last slide. So as I went into level 0, incoherent systems where energy is leaked and wasted, and level 2, where we have a lot more efficiency. Level 3, we have morphs. So first you have chaos, and then you have stationary order, and now you have interesting modulations and movements and wave patterns and morphs. So that's the next level in understanding these quantum properties. And we're going to look at some of those morphs right here.
Why waste another summer not loving your body?
With Base 44, we turn that question into a successful business.
All right. Yeah, so those are some very cool morphs. And then take a guess on what level 3 would be. Level 3 would be, okay, now we're morphing. Now, where do we want to go next? And why? That's level 3 is movement in space, direction, and intention. Reason why. Very esoteric, philosophical. Call it the more W axis. The W axis. So I think I'll end on that note. Thank you all so much for being here, for listening, and it's been my pleasure to share my knowledge. And until next time, peace.
Thanks.
Well, thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here, partly because I think this water conference is a model of what scientific conferences could be: open-minded, broad-based, and inclusive. Also because Jerry Pollack, who's such an inspiration for all of us, corresponds so closely to my ideal scientist. When I was a child and wanted to be a scientist, I thought that all scientists would be like Jerry Pollack, and open-minded, curious, and unpompous. I soon discovered that actually there aren't very many Jerry Pollacks. In fact, there's only
Right, all right. Before we jump into this Rupert Sheldrake speech on water and morphology, I just wanted to say thank you for being here, everybody. I even though there's not like the stadium's full out here, but hey, I appreciate every one of y'all, man. Thank you for being here and you know, wanting to learn and be a nerd with me, because you know, when I nerd out, it's just I nerd out, you know, can't help it. But yeah, man, I hope everyone had a good meal with your family and or friends or both, right? And Dr. Bass, I see you, brother. Thank you for being here, man. Happy turkey lurkey gobble gobble day. You know, I felt bad for eating that turkey a little bit, but then again, it was so fucking good. It had this gravy and like this crumbly what do you call it? Dressing, right? Am I saying that right? Dressing? Gravy dressing. Yeah, yeah, turkey dressing. And it was wonderful. And you know, my family always throws down when they cook. And I think I officially am gonna fast now after today's meal. I at least need to fast for like 2 days, bro. I'm so heavy right now. I feel like no energy. Like it was so good, but it was so bad for me at the same time. So yeah, man, it was awesome. I just want to say what's up to everybody. Thank you for being here, and let's get into this Sheldrake talk here, man. I think this will be one for the ages, because I watched a little bit of it and I had to rewind it because you know I just wanted to you know enjoy watching this with you guys as well. So all right, let's get into it.
one.
Man.
So anyway, I'm very pleased to be here. And what I'm talking about this morning is something I've never talked about before, namely water. Because it's a water conference, and I have over the years done some research involving water. So this is what I'm going to be talking about now is something none of you would have heard before, because I haven't done it before. Of course, I'll touch on various themes that are familiar to you, and one of them is vibratory patterns in water. I think one of the problems within the sciences in general is that in the 1950s, when analog computers and digital computers were both viable options, everything went down the digital computing route. And that's given us many benefits. But analog computers model processes by creating processes, rather than trying to break them down into yes and no bits and then kind of reconstruct them from granular atomistic elements. And analog computing provides models of nature which are actually much easier to understand and are in many cases much more appropriate than digital computing. And this is often true of phenomena and processes involving waves. We now know that wave phenomena lie at the very heart of matter. Quantum physics is all about waves and wave patterns. And you can, of course, model those to some degree with equations, but the more complex the wave patterns, the more difficult the modeling becomes. but you can also model them with waves themselves. And the reason I'm so interested in modeling with waves is because I think that the underlying processes in morphogenesis, in chemistry, molecules, crystals, and biology are to do with what I call morphogenetic fields. And these are basically vibratory fields of activity. They're wave-like and rhythmic. So one way into understanding patterns of vibration is through analog model systems. And vibratory patterns were first studied, well, Leonardo da Vinci was one of the first to observe that when you vibrated piles of dust, they formed patterns. And Chladni, who did the classic work on Chladni patterns on vibrating plates, showed that if you vibrate a plate and you have particles on it like pollen or spores or sand, then the patterns are formed as it lines up on the nodes of the vibratory patterns. And here's a whole series of patterns on vibratory plates showing that how form arises from frequency. These particular patterns were produced by Alexander Lauterwasser. Now, Michael Faraday was very interested in these patterns, and he was a very curious and open-minded scientist. And he started looking at them in water. And Faraday discovered that if you vibrate water, you get patterns on the surface, ripples. If you have sloping edges to the container, these ripples fade out like waves breaking on a beach, a sandy beach. But if you have vertical walls of the container, they're reflected, and you get standing wave patterns. And these standing wave patterns are called Faraday waves, after Faraday. Well, it's now possible to study these with a precision never before possible, thanks to the development of the CIMAscope by John Stuart Reid, who's here at this conference. And my son Merlin and I have got a CIMAscope laboratory at our home in London. There it is. The CIMAscope's in the middle. It has a coil that vibrates up and down. And there's a small container here, about 2 centimeters in diameter, with a small volume of fluid. So, and there's a camera that takes, there's the camera, and here's a light ring that gives, illuminates it. And in this, you can control the frequency and the amplitude and do repeatable experiments. This is shows you the kind of pattern you get. You see, that was a threefold pattern with standing waves that oscillate backwards and forwards. So it gives you a six-fold pattern altogether. This is another one. This is an eight-fold pattern. And by vibrating at different frequencies, you get a series of patterns: six-fold, eight-fold, 10-fold, 12-fold, 14, 16, 18, 20. And it goes up further. So there are these symmetry patterns, and these are, as it were, resonant frequencies that appear. When you go up through the spectrum, this one shows, this is a composite, which is what you get if you take exposures fairly, unless you have very quick exposures. With very, very quick exposures, you can see this is an alternation between this pattern and this pattern. This is an alternation between this and this. And so what you're seeing normally is the composite.
Hi, I'm JT, and I made Result Hunter, the search engine for conservatives. Let me just tell you what it does. First of all, big tech right now.
and have to be looked at again. Dr. Sheldrake has been a pioneer in both.
Takes, there's the camera, and here's a light ring that gives, illuminates it. And in this you can control, and it goes up further. So there are these symmetry patterns, and these are, as it were, resonant frequencies that appear. When you go up through the spectrum, oh, this one shows.
CMMC became effective in December 2024, and assessments are now underway. For defense contractors handling CUI,
shows this is a composite, which is what you get if you take exposures fairly, unless you have very quick exposures. With very, very quick exposures, you can see this is an alternation between this pattern and this pattern. This is an alternation between this and this. And so what you're seeing normally is the composite. We went up through an entire spectrum from 50 to 200 hertz, and you get ranges. These are replicates, these three lines, and you get periods when there's no pattern, and then you get into an area where you get a particular pattern, and then you get into no pattern again. It's a bit like old-fashioned radios, where you tune the radio set and you get a station, and then there's a kind of noise in between, and then you get the next station. So you come in and out of these resonant frequencies, and they show an order as you go up from the bottom here: 6, 8, 4, 10, 6, 12, 8. It doesn't seem to have any logical sequence, but when you plot them on a graph, you see a very distinct series of patterns. This is increasing frequency here from 50 to 200 hertz. And this is the foldness of the pattern with three replicates: 6, 8, 10, 12. 14's missing, 16, 18, 20. Then it all starts over again: 6, 8, 10, 12, and then again. So you see we have these harmonic frequencies. The only way of modeling these mathematically seems to be using Bessel functions, which are really those like vibrating drum membranes. So there's an order in all this, which is what you'd expect really with waves and patterns. When we look at the more detailed patterns, we find that these are like basins of attraction. This is frequency. These are the patterns that we get at these frequencies. And this is the amplitude needed, the minimum amplitude needed to create the pattern. And this is like a tractor, a well. And there's a period point here where you get the pattern very clearly with the minimum energy. And there's an area around it where these patterns, you have to have more energy to make them happen. This is a resonance pattern. And if you look at the vibrations at these bits in between, what you see is something on the cusp of it's what chaos mathematicians call a chaotic pattern, where it's drawn between two attractors. So this is at the cusp between two of those patterns.
spot on, has probably saved us 20% or more in just product loss. Reporting is paramount. All Mine is in Oceanside. We're a scratch restaurant. We make all the pasta by hand, our dough, our sauces, our sausage even.
Well, you've got the idea that in between there's this kind of unstable area. One of the people who's done most research on this in relation to biological forms is Alexander Lauterwasser here in Germany. And what he's shown is that these radially symmetrical patterns that you get vibrating water have distinct analogues in biological forms like flowers. And they also have analogues in radially symmetrical structures. These are pollen grains. Each of these are from different species, and each species has a particular pattern of the pollen grain. These are single cells. And why this is important is that current thinking about biological morphogenesis is heavily molecular, and most biologists think it all happens just by switching on and off genes. But in a single cell, switching on and off genes can't explain the morphogenesis of a single cell, because the genes are the same for the whole cell, and what's switched on and off is the same for the whole cell. So how does a cell, a single cell, create complex form? Well, I think the only answer is through a morphogenetic field. And instead of morphogenetic fields being conceived of as they currently are, primarily in terms of diffusing chemicals, I think they're actually vibratory patterns. And when you see those vibratory patterns and you see these radially symmetrical structures, these are radiolarians, which are also single cells. They live in the sea, single-celled organisms with silicaceous skeletons. Again, I think that the underlying morphogenetic process must depend on wave patterns of some kind, possibly acoustic waves, but more likely electrical wave patterns within the cell membranes. These are famous pictures of radiolarians by Ernst Haeckel. These forms, those are radially symmetrical forms, but vibratory patterns can also give rise to non-radially symmetrical patterns. This is just to remind you that radially symmetrical patterns appear in art. This is the tomb, the dome of the tomb of Hafiz. And these are rose windows at Chartres and at Notre Dame. And again, there's a limited number of radially symmetrical patterns. I'm not suggesting that they bought a cymoscope and developed these as a result of doing research with cymoscopes, but if you're interested in radial symmetry, there's a limited number of patterns you can arrive at. Now, Pierre, could you help me with this one again? Because this is where we need a film. The film I'm about to show is again from Alexander Lauterwasser, and it shows an isolated drop of water being vibrated. And what's interesting is that it undergoes a kind of morphogenesis. It's free to move. And this looks exactly like an insect embryo with its segmented pattern. It's a remarkable way that this spontaneously takes up this form. Lauterwasser is also very interested in tortoises. And in the middle, you see a tortoise shell. And around that, you see tortoise-shaped plates on which there's a powder. These are like Chladni figures. And as you see, you can get something very like a tortoise shell pattern through vibrations. These are like the nodes in the vibratory pattern. So I myself think that biological morphogenesis is very largely vibration-based, electrical or acoustic vibrations, and that morphogenetic fields are fields of vibration. And I think this is true also. We know it's true of atoms. We know that an atom is a vibratory pattern in quantum fields, vibrations in the quantum field. It's true of molecules. A benzene molecule, for example, has resonant ring of electrons around it. Crystals are vibratory structures. and so are organisms, and so are we. We have many vibrations in our bodies. We have stir rhythms like heartbeat, breathing, brain waves, and in fact, brains have vibratory patterns of activity which are probably much better modeled by vibrating models like these than by digital computers trying to model what's happening in the brain. Now, when I was thinking about all this in preparation for this talk, I recalled that there's a whole series of hydrodynamical models, including my own, which work not on vibrations but on fluid flows, which are also a kind of analog computer. And this one is a model of the British economy that was produced in 1949 by someone called Phillips. It's hydrodynamical. You have reservoirs with the money supply. You have flows that represent income. You have diversions going into tax. You have foreign assets here, the exports. You have a pump at the bottom to get the money back up to the top. And it's all based on a series of tubes and flows, and you can change interest rates, taxation rates by turning knobs and valves. And this model actually worked. It's called the MONIAC computer, and they were manufactured in the 1950s. There are at least 40 of them in existence. They were bought by various governments, and for 10 years, the entire British economy was modeled by the UK Treasury using this MONIAC computer. Here's the actual device. It has readouts where you can actually see graphs. It plots graphs, so you can actually model the economy in a way that's much more intuitively recognizable than opaque pages of code, which no one except computer experts can understand. Here, ministers of finance, etc., could actually see what happens when you change interest rates and so on, with colored fluids running through. There are 2 or 3 working models in existence, one in New Zealand, where it was used for modeling the New Zealand economy, and one in Britain. So when I spent quite a number of years doing research in India as a plant physiologist, I was the principal plant physiologist at the International Crops Research Institute in Hyderabad, India, where I was working on...
Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari, the Chief Executive Officer of Phoenix Energy. I look forward to you joining us at our next investor webinar, where you can drill deeper into our 9 to 13% annual interest rate bond.
The physiology of 2 legume crops, chickpeas and pigeon peas. Chickpeas are small plants. Research in India as a plant physiologist. I was the principal plant physiologist at the International Crops Research Institute in Hyderabad, India, where I was working on the physiology of 2 legume crops, chickpeas and pigeon peas. Chickpeas are small plants, also known as garbanzos, which are annuals. Pigeon peas are bushy plants, which are basically perennials. They're usually grown as annuals, but they're a perennial bush. And I was interested in how the pods develop. And what I found was there's if you look at the formation of pods in pigeon peas, this is the first formed pods, and then you go along. These are later and later, as flowering goes on, they keep forming pods. And the number of seeds per pod remains fairly consistent, and the weight per seed remains fairly consistent. But in chickpeas, which are an annual, you see a completely different pattern. The number, the weight per pod, the number of the seeds per pod, and the weight per seed all decrease as you get to the later formed pods. I then discovered this is a basic principle of all annual and perennial crops, or at least all the ones I looked at, that in perennials, the later formed fruits are the same weight as the earlier formed fruits, but in annuals, they get smaller and smaller. And I think the reason is that a perennial has to hold something back for next year, whereas an annual plant gives everything it's got forming seeds until it dies, it exhausts itself, doesn't mind exhausting itself because it's going to die anyway. And I was then trying to think how to model them. One of my colleagues who worked on cereal physiology was trying computer models, and the code was incredibly hard to understand. The computer kept breaking down in the Indian climate. He spent most of his time trying to import spare parts. So I decided, remembering this model of the British economy, that I'd produce a hydrodynamical model of pod set in the pigeon pea, which I did. Not a theoretical model, an actual one. Here's me actually making it out of rubber tubing and bicycle inner tubes and burette clips, equipment readily available in India. And here's a picture of the hydrodynamical model. There's a reservoir representing the amount of available sugar or food. There's a tube here representing the branch, and these are the pods. And when you open the valve, because there's a siphon here, there has to be a certain amount of fluid here before a pod will fill. What happens is this pod fills, then this starts filling and it fills, then this one fills, then this one fills, and it reaches a point where there's not enough fluid here to trigger the siphon. So you end up with a number of pods that are completely full, and then the rest are empty. But if you reduce this threshold, lower this down until there's almost no siphon, no threshold, then they go on filling until the later ones are only partly full, until there's hardly anything in the last ones at all, exactly like the chickpea. And when I demonstrated this model to my colleagues in India, I and everybody else got what was going on straight away, and you could change the levels, you could move the height of the siphons, you could open and close the valves. It was a much more informative model, and it helped us understand the physiological basis of pod set. And in fact, in plants, the sugars move around in tubes called the phloem, and it really is a kind of hydrodynamical process. So modeling these processes hydrodynamically turns out to be much easier, much more comprehensible, much more illuminating than hiring lots of people to try to write pages and pages of code, all of which depends on theoretical assumptions. And when you don't know much about the system, you don't know if you've got the right assumptions. This way you can do it by trial and error. Now, when I was thinking about this talk and this modeling process, I was amazed to find a paper that came out in Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society just 2 weeks ago called A Brief History of Liquid Computers by Andrew Adamatsky, who's at it's called the Unconventional Computing Lab in the University of the West of England. And he discovered a whole series of other hydrodynamical and liquid models, mainly water-based, including one here that involves jets of water going through valves. This is actually used in engineering applications. And there's been an interest in various defense departments about these liquid computers, because if there's ever a war or a serious international conflict, the very first thing that's going to happen is the entire internet, everything digital is going to be wiped out, as cyber warfare will take it out straight away. The only thing that will go on working is liquid computers. And for message carrying, carrier pigeons. The Swiss Army, till recently, had the only remaining carrier pigeon corps in Europe. I think the Chinese are the only people left with military pigeons. because they realize that they may actually need them one day. This example, he gives about 7 or 8 different examples of liquid computation, which are very fascinating. Interestingly, there's a big fashion now for quantum computing, and quantum computing involves superposed quantum states, and quantum phenomena are wave phenomena. Basically, what's happening in quantum computing is a reinvention of analog computing. The problem with analog computing is that you have to have specific analog models. It's not like a generalized machine that can do everything. You have to make specific models. But now, if you look in Nature or other leading scientific journals, almost every 2 or 3 weeks, there's now a new analog computer model of chemical bonds, of molecular processes, and so on. So I think, in fact, there is the beginning of a resurgence of analog computing. And even if we don't call it a computer, if we just call it an analog model, I think that these water-based models are able to provide an enormous illumination to many natural phenomena which dense computer code and digital computers can't. So that's really what I wanted to say this morning, a fresh look at the world of computing and an appreciation of what we can learn from the dynamical properties of water, both through hydrodynamical flows and through wave patterns. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jason Chonko. I'm with Lakeshore Cryotronics, and in today's quick video, we're going to take a look at making a high resistance measurement.
With myself, Mark Vernon, and Rupert Sheldrake. Hi there, Rupert.
Hello, Mark.
Today, we thought we might talk about matter, this basic stuff that everyone presumes they know what they mean when they refer to it, seems somehow fundamental to our worldview. But Rupert, this notion has a history, which we'll no doubt get to, but I wonder whether it might be first worth beginning with what actually in science is meant by matter, because it may or may not be so obvious.
Well, the ideas have changed, of course, as you say, with the history. What's meant by matter now is a kind of process. David Bohm, the physicist, once said that matter is frozen light. And instead of the idea of matter as being made up of little atoms like billiard balls, just hard, impenetrable stuff, which was the 19th century view of matter, indeed, a much more ancient view of matter, we now have the idea of matter as vibratory processes. So a nucleus of an atom is made up of vibratory particles, protons and neutrons. They themselves are as particles as de Broglie showed at the beginning of the quantum revolution in the 1920s, that these material particles, subatomic particles, are actually vibratory processes. And the electrons around the nucleus are standing waves of vibration. They're waves in matter fields. In quantum theory, the idea is that matter is vibratory patterns in matter fields. And so when David Bohm said matter's frozen light, it was really taking the view that light is by definition on the move, and it moves at the speed of light. But the energy of light can be trapped in matter. And as soon as it's trapped in matter, it's bound in a particular place. And it sort of goes round and round and round in the case of electrons. Instead of streaking off the speed of light, it's trapped in an orbital and it's localized. So then, according to these views, you see matter is then localized in a particular place or a particular state of motion with momentum moving along. And its localization has two aspects which are related to its mass. And mass is, of course, the quantitative measure of the quantity of matter. 10 times greater mass means 10 times more matter. And most of the mass in an electron, in an atom or a molecule is in the nuclei. Only a small part is in the electrons. So the mass has two aspects. One's usually called inertial mass, which is what binds it to a particular place or particular state of motion. It means that it basically stays where it is. And the interesting thing, according to the de Broglie equation, Broglie, B-R-O-G-L-I-E, the French quantum physicist, according to the de Broglie equation, the frequency of vibration is proportional to the mass involved. So if it's twice as heavy, it vibrates twice as fast, roughly speaking. So the frequency, the faster it vibrates, the more it's tied to a place, the more its inertial mass is, the greater it is. Now, the other aspect of mass is its gravitational effect. And gravitation links all matter in the universe, as Newton showed, to all other matter. All matter is interconnected through gravitation. Every particle of matter attracts every other particle of matter in the universe. That means that in some sense, it has to know where it is and how much of it is there out there. If a meteorite is rocketing through space and comes near to the Earth, and it's attracted to the Earth through the Earth's gravitational field, it has to sense the direction of the Earth and also sense that there's more Earth than there is meteorites. So there's a greater gravitational pull. So there's
What's good, everybody? I just want to jump in while I was watching this video here and tell everyone happy Turkey Lurkey Day. Gobble gobble. Get your eat on, get your drink on, get your dessert on. However you do you. I just wanted to say I appreciate you being here. And yeah, dude, I've had a long fucking day. And I'm just trying to kick back and take it easy now. If you look at the title of this, I'll get around to that here in just a little bit. So just hang in there with me, guys, and y'all have yourself a good evening. Hold on one second. Oh, Mr. Super, okay. Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. I appreciate the hospitality, even though you're not hosting. I appreciate you being gentlemanly and yeah, man, and bearing with me. I'm dealing with a little bit today, man. So I'm just trying to kick back. And yeah, man, appreciate you. I'm gonna mute up and let the video play. I hope you're enjoying this. This here, you know, famously, I'm probably known for these little whatever the fuck they are flying around everywhere that my buddy records. So yeah, I'll play one more and I'll be right back.
The tapestry, where past, present, and future entwine.
Seems like he recorded this one. I guess to save time, this is sped up. It looks like a little bit, not quite real time, but nonetheless, there are still several of some people call them satellites, some people call them space buggies. I call them doohickey majiggers. You know, everyone has a name for whatever the fuck these are, but they're definitely not. I about said a double negative. They're definitely something there, right? Obviously, due to the way his infrared sensors set and his low light aperture, of course, is very low. I think this is a A7, if I'm not mistaken, the type of camera. It's a Sony A7. Oh, and yeah, in the top left corner, that would be the moon coming in. But then on the bottom right, it's going to look like a second moon is coming in over next to those. Keep an eye on those branches there in the bottom right. You'll see. And then when he switches the infrared setting, it disappears. So it just tells me that it's whatever they are, they're more prevalent to be seen when it's low light infrared and his ISO is high. I want to say high, but I don't know as much as he does or anyone else on camera settings, but I'll shut up and let you check it out though. It's pretty cool. Right, here it goes. It's about to flip the switch. So the bright light on the right. We'll see that? Like, where is it? And where'd the moon go? That, I mean, it tripped me out when I'm like, hold on. I was trying to squint my eyes and, you know, get all Chinese and look at these, bend over here and, you know, lean over and look upside down. And none of that brought whatever that was back into view. So, but you still see the little, whatever the little ones are, they're flying. And I like this, the effects this has, because it's almost like you can see as those goes by fast like they are, you'll see that it is pushing through a medium of a thicker, more soupy look than, you know, any other type of Star Trail effect. That's just me. This is what I see. You know, I could be all wrong. You know, I've been known to be wrong before. I'm gonna mute back up, guys. I'll be right back. And just a heads up, guys. Uh, recently, I've found a cool way of watching these back when I have enough time. I'll watch them back on the slowest playback speed, like 25%, and you'd be surprised what, you know, the I just have a realization when I look at things. I look at them very critical eye, and I don't put things on here or play them back or, you know, for the Foundry unless I've thoroughly tried to, you know, prove my own eyes wrong or something. You know what I mean? My own senses. And I've learned to do that over the years because of Flat Earth. And it's helped me to, you know, not just accept anything. And I just wanted to say that if you guys want me to, I can play it back on 25%, or you can do that in your own time. But I just wanted to let y'all know that. But I'll put on another one and be right back. just a heads up, it does get a little bit loud and because of the traffic sometimes. But if it gets too loud, let me know and I'll mute it up. And guys, I'm on the East Coast, and about 11 o'clock, I'm going to do an intermission for about 10 minutes. And if you have any questions or requests, anything like that, I'll probably go over any of those around 11. And y'all are welcome to stay. I'm going to, I'll probably be up till 12 or 1. I've got as I'm doing this live, I got to do a little bit of a project a presentation before tomorrow, and I got to finish up that notes and everything like that. So yeah, you guys are more than welcome to hang out with me, and I'll be here, man. So happy Turkey Lucky Day again. And man, save some of that dessert for tomorrow. Now I know y'all the munchies like I did. Bro, I ate sweet potato souffle, sweet potato pie. That's it, sweet potato pie. I like 4 pieces, and I regret it now, but it was delicious. So anyway. Okay, that was officially badass where he slowed that down. That was some good editing. Wow. Look how high those are, man. Sometimes you'll see them cross, but like they'll be like parallax, but the vehicle will be higher than the star or whatever, we call stars, but or it almost looked equal height, in other words. Yeah, but I'll shut up. It's pretty badass though, huh? The apple crisp-alone. Oh, that sounds so good. I know it had some good cinnamon and all that in it. And they had my favorite kind of the apple crisp would be the Korean apple torch. They have that sweeter flavor, a little sour and sweet. Anyway. Wow. That was cool. Is that just me, or does that star on the left there not look quite like any other stars, what we call stars? It's almost like a triangle shape in a way.
Hey there! Welcome to the U.S. Aviation Academy and the Conroe location. Come take a look at our campus.
Right. Yeah, that looked oddly. Oh wow, look at that. That was cool. It wasn't green like some of the other ones. That was purple. Yeah. And purple, what does that tell us? Very high frequency. My dad helped me fix my famous potato salad. Oh man. Yeah, I throw down on potato salad. Yeah. But that sounds delicious, man. A mix. I'll have to remember that and try that one, Mr. Soups, for sure. I need to ask Chris where he's been filming lately. I mean, it's nothing really different out of the ordinary of seeing things like this. It's no surprise to me, but I'm not. This doesn't look familiar. He must be pretty far out from the city to get shots like this with this much clarity, you know. Hey, welcome, Sea Lightning. Happy Turkey Lurkey Day. Gobble gobble to you, sir. Yes, I did see that. That was quite some G-force. That might have mushed somebody's brains. Let's hope there was no one in there. All right. Okay, so there's one like I'm talking about, as it looks as high as what we would call stars. Hopefully y'all heard that, but it in the flashing is very not familiar. Look at that. It's going like that's as high, if not higher, than the lights in the sky there, it looks like. Oh man, I wish I would have lived out, you know, like away from the city light. Well, I mean, I'm not in a big city or near a big city, but still there's too much light pollution. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna switch it up, and I will be right back. Let me get this. Here's one for you. See lightning. Here. Second. You would like this one. Here we go. Here we go. This one shouldn't be as noisy, but I'm gonna mute up for just a second. Keep it now microscopic. Well, looks like this, right? Fractal, yes. Fractal is such a beautiful word, man. And then when you think about it, you know. Yeah, anyway, I'm gonna hush up. With binoculars, it's incredible. I'd like to see some stuff one day. See lightning, maybe you can compare where you live to some of the other videos that I play, you know, and also if you're ever curious about one of these videos and what kind of equipment exactly he's using, and you know, shutter speed and you know, aperture size and so on and so forth, then I can get the details for you. Because it's always good to try to reproduce things, right? Yeah, see, like he does in some of his, just to give you know, more of a dramatic effect, I guess, and also to bring attention to some of the more profound movements. But yeah, he does that, and he slows it down and speeds it up sometimes. So. Like he may take an hour of material recording and shrink it down to like, you know, 2.5, 3 minutes. But yeah.
You want to quick see what 64 5-watt LED lights look like turned on up against some LED regular headlights? That's bright. Pretty neat.
Did we invent crispy chicken? Of course not. But we did put it inside of a taco, which is genius.
All right, just give me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna switch it up. I hit the wrong button, so I'm gonna have to screen share one more time. Excuse me 1 second, okay? I'll be right back. Okay, let's see that one. So this will be the last video before intermission, and I'll take like a 5-minute break and and then I'll address some of what you're saying, Sea Lightning, and chat along with you. So just bear with me, and we'll be at that point. So this is going to take. Oh, sorry, this is going to take 7 minutes, and then we will take intermission. Right, here we go. Now this one is some very good stuff. Y'all might want to keep your eyes peeled. Yep. You say he went off the moon? You said it deflected off the moon. Can you dive in a little more detail about that, Sea Lightning, if you don't mind? I got you, Sea Lightning. Take your time, brother. I'm gonna be here for a few more minutes, though. No big hurry. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that STS mission back in the 90s from NASA back in the 90s. You would see this kind of stuff, exactly what you're seeing now, except from a top-down view looking through the Earth's atmosphere. And I swear, I promise to you, hold on, one second. But I'll make it quick. But what I was trying to say is that back in the 90s, when they did the STS missions, before YouTube got real strict, right, with the algorithms. Well, I used to find videos from satellites, like leaked footage from satellites looking down right through and I swear it looked identical to where the stars are here, except you were in the midst of the stars looking at, these lights zipping by. People were like, oh, that's fake. They're blah, blah, blah. I'm like, brother, I was looking at these things before YouTube was even YouTube, like before it was a big, you know what I mean? And a lot of it, I'll actually go get a video here in a minute during intermission, and I'll bring it back and show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. And it's like almost like there was a camera mounted looking down on the Earth, but there were a bunch of vehicles shooting through the stars. I swear. But anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling. I'm gonna go look for that, and I'll bring it back. Yes, that makes me so excited. I get to show somebody else. Yeah. Okay. All right. Here we go. We're looking at the stars and these vehicles or whatever they are that zip through the atmosphere. Yeah. I think it could be something like that, Jeep. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, because no human could go that fast and then turn. It would kill them instantly. So, yeah, maybe it's a spiritual kind of like bioluminescent kind of travelers. Okay, I am going to take a quick intermission while this plays, and give me maybe 3 to 5 minutes, maybe not even that long, and I shall return. Thank you for being here, every one of y'all. I appreciate you, and I think in times like this, it's great to keep each other company and let your mind kind of explore and be open to things instead of closed down or pushy, like like certain subjects, like don't push things away sometimes, because I do think that your mind, right, is just like any other muscle. It has to be exercised and venture. It has to go out and see new things and hear different tones, and and it brings your body to a whole new coherent kind of frequency stability, if I may. Um, but I won't ramble on. I'll let you look at some of this beautiful scenery, and I will be right back. I got some good stuff coming up. So please, please, please understand that on this Turkey Lurkey Day, we're going to look at some cool ass shit. All right. Thank you. Wow, look at this. What is this? This is my first time seeing this one. So this is truly a shock. What is that? You know? I mean, it could be a plane, maybe. Yeah, maybe that is a plane. Okay. I'm not used to seeing things flashing. Right. Thank y'all for sticking around, guys. This is a treat for me, you know, for having such a kind of a drabby day for me, you know. It was really long, and yeah, I wasn't up for a bunch of company, but you know, I let the family come over here to my house, do the get together. Oh, cool. Wow, that was neat. It just came out of nowhere. So yeah, so I let the family come over here and just do everything. I was like, I was stressing because, you know, I really wanted to have enough seating and things for everyone, right? But I just put together my back room as my studio room, right? Where I'm gonna start doing my music, and I bought a projector to, you know, make it like so. So when I do these live streams, I'm gonna start doing them from my back room studio, and you know, that way you guys can kind of interact with me in person, and you know, me being up and like, you know, I'll just make sure that, you know, I'm in the right state of mind to give a productive like hangout session, and you know, just be me, and you know, get to know people a little bit more, you know. So yeah. Jeep says, I'm the same way. I like being alone. I do love my alone time. My little brother showed me the moon and he proved the Earth is a ball. That's his logic. Oh, I see it. I see what you mean. So what tipped you over the edge to be vocal and to go down that road, and you know, of exploration, and find out what the Earth really was? You know, what was that? What was that one or two things that really got you? Thought it was a gotcha. They all do, man, until they're like, oh shit, I can't disprove this. You know, or it's so easy to disprove the globe. You know, it's I guess I had a lot more spare time than most people after I broke my neck. So like I just kind of naturally, you know, was like, I'll make up my mind internally first before I'm even vocal about it, and I kind of check myself like, are you sure you're seeing what you think you're seeing? Like, are you sure you read over that? You know, you did these, you know, these measurements that these other guys did. You know, and you gotta do that though. You know, so for at least for me to be 100%, I had to like nudge myself a few times. You know. Yeah, Rob Skeeble was my guy. Yeah, yeah. Genesis 6, man. He made it very clear in the Bible. Not just Rob, but you know, Father. Okay, let me. If y'all let me. As a matter of fact, let me pause this just for 1 second. I'm gonna go back just a little bit and show you guys what I just saw. And this looked very structured up here. Let me. Oh, that looks like a comet or something. Let me rewind just a little bit. And, that way I can look. I was blabbering and I missed it all. Let's see. Oh, right there. I'm going to come back to the comments here in 1 second. But notice on the left where my mouse is, this little guy here. Watch this. Right through here. See him? But that's what I was looking at right here. That big bulging thing there. And right here. It came out of nowhere. Right. I'm going to mute it just for 1 second. I'm going to come back. And my battery's getting low, so I want to just chat it up with y'all for a couple minutes before my battery goes completely out. And let me come back up in the comments here, if y'all don't mind. I'm going to play it, but I'm going to leave the volume down so it's not so loud. Okay, is that cool with y'all? If I just let the background play, but without audio. That way we can, I can, or y'all can hear me, without it. Growing and continuing creation, yes. All right, let me come here. I'm gonna play this. Oh, I see. Okay, I see. I gotta mute it here. There we go. Okay. Now let me come back over here to the comments. I'm the same way. I like being alone. Yes. He thought it was. Gotcha. Yeah. And see lightning. I'm glad you're back, brother. This Mikey is the only one in the world to keep up to a moving light. Also can find any star in the night sky after 20 seconds with his binoculars. Awesome. Yeah, I've seen those binoculars, man. Those are some heavy duty fucking binoculars, man. Like the ones I've seen it was a little while back, but still, like those are some like huge, like end of the world binoculars, bro. Like those dudes, those binoculars are not breaking anytime soon. Look like the eyes of an eagle or something. Let me come on down here. Yeah, Rob Skibo. I started looking. I first came across actually. It was Rob Skibo's second. It was Davidson. That's his name. Robbie Davidson, the one that flipped and supposedly quote unquote went back to the globe. Anyway, that's how I first found out about it, about flat Earth. Light deflection off the moon. Oh yeah, ain't in no big hurry, brother. Maybe we can, maybe you can, message to me or something like that. Hey, and listen, guys, I'm a very open person with people, and I like to just talk like as if we know each other. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna before I jump off here in a few, I'm gonna leave my personal number, okay, my personal phone number, and if anyone ever wants to just text or shoot me like a video you want me to play on my stream or something like that, or we could line up a time to do a live podcast since I have my studio in the back room now fixed, and you know what I mean. I'm kind of ready to move forward with now that I do have a podcast and my stuff set up for it here at my home. Then I'd love to just if you guys ever want to just chat it up about anything and everything, just just let me know, and I'll be happy to try to work it out and time it right where we can talk. But listen, since you guys are part of the Foundry, right? So with the title tonight, who is the mole? And I quite literally mean, like, who is an agent that is I don't know anybody personal like that enough yet, but I got people that emailed me telling me to watch out for such and such and such and such. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's childish as fuck. And somebody is trying to pit me and the top, 3 or 4 other people that, are always on each other's shows in the Foundry. Somebody's trying to pit me against people. Let's put it that way. I don't know how they got my information, but I've been emailed and told I need to watch out for, a couple other people. And I'm like, who the fuck is trying to, you know what I mean? Like cause division, let's put it that way. But I want to let y'all know somebody got my email and told me that, I mean, I'm just going to be honest with y'all. They said, watch out for, and I'm not even going to throw names out there like that, but somebody's saying, the person that does a lot of things and talks in the Foundry, that you remember the other day when they were like, somebody jumped on right before the end of Vlad's show and was like, hey man, y'all need to something about Vlad and Vlad, we laughed it off and we flew it off. But now I'm getting emails, bro, like telling me the same thing. So whoever sent me the email, y'all need to just come on out and be honest and open with everybody. Don't try to send me personal messages and tell me what I need to be doing.